Hello, I'm Bob Shaffer, and I am running for re-election to the Planning Board. I have currently been on the Planning Board since 2020, and I served an earlier term from 2000 to 2005. I first volunteered in Westford by joining the Westford's Networks for Education and Technology. It was a 501c3 that serviced the internet needs for all public schools in Westford. In spring of 1998, I volunteered to serve as a member of the Route 110 Master Plan Committee. Since then, I have served as a member of the Westford FinCom, Master Plan Implementation Committee, Westford Historical Commission, Stupinski Land Acquisition Committee, Drew Gardens Task Force. I served as chair of the Community Preservation Committee, and I chaired the Citizens Committee to adopt CPA back in 2001. During my service on the Route 110 Master Plan Committee, as well as the Master Plan Implementation Committee, I was an active participant in the drafting of design standards and zoning changes for the Route 110 corridor, as well as new zoning bylaws that included the Flexible Development Bylaw, Mill Reuse Bylaw, and Senior Residential Multifamily Overlay District Bylaw, as well as developing various other updates to Westford's zoning bylaws at the time. The Route 110 Master Plan Design Guidelines continue to be a useful reference for new developments to consider when building along the Route 110 corridor. These guidelines also share a lot of similarity to the guidelines now contained in the MBTA Community Housing Overlay District Bylaw. Since the MBTA Community Housing Overlay District Bylaw was approved at the 2024 annual meeting, there are now two important new housing developments being proposed in this overlay district along the Route 110 Powers Road corridor. One of these, Zom Housing at 37 Powers Road, also known as the Westford Earth Materials Site, is now in public hearing before the Planning Board with a proposed 530 units of housing. The other is a project by Redgate Development for 419 Littleton Road at the site of the Westford Regency. This project is still undergoing permitting, and it is expected to file a development package with Westford to start the public hearing process before the Planning Board later this year. In July of last year, we did have a preliminary concept presented to the Planning Board that shows this concept for 300 new housing units. Both of these projects will require an in-depth analysis and review by the Planning Board and many town staff, as well as by many outside consultants. I believe my extensive experience in Westford zoning and planning, along with my demonstrated skills when reviewing similar projects, will be an asset for negotiating with the developers so that Westford's residents' desires and concerns are addressed. Earlier this year, as a result of the review of the Redgate project for permitting by National Grid, Westford's leadership learned that our power grid along Littleton Road and Route 110 is at or near capacity. We also learned that National Grid was not taking responsibility for the funding of the study to fix this infrastructure shortfall. The Westford Town Manager and Redgate have sent a letter to Governor Healy requesting assistance to help with this issue. On resolve, this issue could impact Westford's contribution to the Governor's housing goals, as well as this is a critical issue for all of Westford's residents serviced by the National Grid electric utility. I pledge that one of my priorities will be to continue monitoring this shortfall issue and seeking solutions that don't cost Westford residents money. We also have two important planning studies coming up here in the next few months, funded by different state grants. There will be a Route 40 corridor study looking at the development potential along Route 40. And in addition, there's going to be a pedestrian study evaluating pedestrian improvements along Route 110 and Powers Road. These will be incorporated into a planned widening of that stretch of Littleton Road in the future. The Planning Board and other town boards and committees will be seeking resident volunteers for both of these studies in the upcoming months. Back in early February, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts enacted a new law that grants accessory dwelling units by right. Currently, Westford's zoning bylaw only grants ADUs by a special permit granted by the ZBA. Obviously, the Westford zoning bylaw relative to ADUs is out of compliance. In the upcoming months, the Planning Board will be taking up this issue with the objective to identify amendments to the zoning bylaw that will be included on the fall town meeting warrant. To date, I have always utilized my strength in analytical thinking as well as my knowledge of Westford's history and planning objectives to address the planning issues of Westford. This is important because the Planning Board must align and review their responses so that they can be aligned with the zoning bylaws as well as the strategic planning objectives of Westford. Please vote for me, Bob Shaffer, during the town election on May 6th. And remember, if you cannot vote on that day, you can absentee vote beginning on 7th of April. Thank you.